TV, radio and online, Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, you're watching GB News. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories. Caroline Flack's mother says ITV has learned nothing from her daughter's death following the controversy over Phillip Schofield's affair with a younger male colleague. Christine Flack said Schofield is realising what her daughter went through before her death and urged him and his former lover not to do anything silly. The coroner ruled the Love Island host killed herself after learning she faced an assault charge involving her boyfriend. Miss Flack told BBC's Newsnight Schofield had done the right thing by being honest and that she hoped it would now settle.
It worries me because it's relentless on him. I feel, I do feel worried for him. No, they haven't learnt anything. They haven't. They treat them as commodities. And I know it's a lovely job and I know they earn money, but also the television stations that earn money from them. But they're not commodities, they're people and they're employed. And if my employee didn't take care of me, there'd be all hell to pay.
At least 207 people have been killed after two passenger trains collided in India. The Coromandel Express, which runs from Kolkata to Chennai, crashed into the Howrah Superfast Express in the eastern state of Odisha. Videos show people climbing over the toppled carriages as the injured were carried to ambulances. Officials say the number of fatalities is expected to rise. Boris Johnson says he sent unredacted WhatsApp messages directly to the COVID inquiry, bypassing the Cabinet Office. The former Prime Minister told the inquiry chair he would like to do the same with messages on an old phone that is locked due to security concerns. It has discussions on it from before May 2021. It's after the inquiry announced it's bringing a legal challenge against the Cabinet Office after it missed yesterday's deadline to hand over all Mr Johnson's messages and diaries. A 19-year-old has been sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 6 years after pleading guilty to planning terror attacks on the police and military. Matthew King from Essex converted to Islam and became radicalised during the COVID lockdown. The judge praised his mother, who reported him to the Prevent Counter-Terrorism programme, saying it couldn't have been easy but was absolutely the right thing. And more disruption for holidaymakers this summer as security guards at Heathrow Airport announce further strike action. Unite, the union, says its members will stage 33 days of industrial action in a dispute over pay. The walkouts will take place almost every weekend from mid-June to the end of August. You're up to date on TV, online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn. This is GB News. Now it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen. Tonight I'm joined by a pairing that is unwise but is not illegal. It's Nick Dixon and Lewis Schaefer. How you both doing? Had a good day?
Very good day. My calendar, the Lewis Schaefer calendar designed by Lucy Harmon, has been published and it's going to be shipped out.
Record
today.
time. Mentioned the calendar within less than a minute.
I'm not showing it though, and you can't buy it because it's been
banned.
It's been bound and gagged.
Oh.
Well, if he's going to do that, I've got to say, I just released a podcast today with Lord Frost on my podcast, The Current Thing, with David Frost, obviously a Conservative peer, former chief Brexit negotiator.
Not David Frost as in the TV host who's
sadly deceased, yeah. Not that one. That would be amazing.
Or a really quiet podcast.
Yeah. Just me talking, that'd be fine.
Mine is actually a physical thing. It's not like
it's not as good as what I just said, though, is it?
It is better. It's better. It's an actual thing. It's a creation. It's amazing.
Podcast is also a physical thing because if you store it on solid state, even RAM needs to be physically changed to store data. It happened, we got onto tech. Right, let's have a look at Saturday's front pages. The Telegraph starts with Ministers had secret unit to curb critics of lockdown. We'll get into that soon. The Times, blood test promises faster cancer diagnosis. The Guardian, game-changing drug could boost breast cancer survival rates. The Daily Mail goes with unions line up. Another year of rail strike mayhem. The Sun says that Phillip Schofield fears being spat on. And finally, the Daily Star, who the hell are these sickos? And those are your front pages. Let's get back into this with some greater detail. Let's look at Saturday's Telegraph, Nick.
Yeah, shocking story here. Ministers had secret unit to curb critics of lockdown. So very, very disturbing. I mean, they had a chilling secret unit to curb lockdown dissent. This was a counter-disinformation unit, which is as sinister as it sounds. Critics of lockdown had posts removed from social media. And they even, if it wasn't sinister enough, they even used artificial intelligence to scour social media sites. So there was an element of like robots tracking you. And we've already seen people like Toby Young, who I do a podcast with, having the 77th Brigade tracking people like him and Peter Hitchens. There's part of the intelligence, Ministry of Defence. They were tracking people who had dissenting views on lockdown. Now we found there was this counter-disinformation unit, and it's even worse than we thought. And it's people like Professor Carl Hennigan, serious experts that they were tracking, and they call it so-called disinformation narratives, much like this new BBC Verify service where we find that, they're cracking down on disinformation, but it's their definition of that. And in fact, the BBC took part in secretive meetings of a government policy forum to address this so-called disinformation. So very, very disturbing.
Can you have some sympathy for a situation, given that they believe that what they are trying to defend is true, at the time, at the very least, that maybe it wasn't... The way that this newspaper describes it seems like there's a room where they're coming up with a plan on how to... Maybe they weren't thinking about it.
You're comfortable, Steve, with... We've got this new situation.
That's not answering the question. My thing is, do you think in that moment they weren't thinking this is malfeasance? They think this is a...
Oh, do they think they were doing the right thing? Yeah, sure. Why not? Loads of history's greatest villains do. Some of the worst tyrants, as C.S. Lewis pointed out, are people that are doing it in the name of good. They're the most dangerous people. So it's very chilling because, as the Telegraph say here, many of the issues being raised were valid and have since been proven to be well-founded. So it's just much like the COVID lab leak theory. It's like, oh, you're not allowed to say this at this time because it goes against our narrative. I personally find this incredibly disturbing. And it's disturbing that only the Telegraph are focusing on it, much like the lockdown files. They're the only ones that seem interested in this.
Lewis, let's see what sense you're going to throw at this.
Well, I don't think this is the most disturbing thing. I think what's disturbing is the reaction to this. As you say, it's just the Telegraph that's going to put this thing. I think this is a tip of the iceberg, because I think even without the government having this disinformation unit, I think the powers that be in the whole World Economic Forum, the big people, would have quashed it anyway. They wouldn't even needed the government to do it because they were all in on it, including Facebook. They wanted to suppress the truth. It's I know it's a comedy show. I'm starting off on a bad foot.
No, it is a dark story.
Any joy to be had in the other thing on the front page about remote working? Because, you can always tell whether people like remote working or not. It's one of those... It's a tribal issue now, isn't it? For some reason... If I know your point of view on Meghan and also on Gary Lineker, I can guess what you think about working from home.
Well, not necessarily. What do you think I think about it?
Yeah.
I've got mixed views. See, you can't. I mean, look, this is the remote work lifestyle to drop house prices by 10% for good. So I suppose, yeah, maybe good if you want to buy a house. Basically, people are fleeing the cities because they don't need to be there. And so obviously it's lowering house prices, and it looks like it's going to be a permanent change.
Would that not also increase house prices in places that aren't cities?
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
Anything on that?
people working from home has been the historic way from time immemorial. People have always worked from home. They had the loom at home. They farmed at home. They did everything at home. The idea of going to an office all the way across town to work is a very recent phenomenon. So
people have always worked.
They've always worked at home.
Or do they just live where they were working?
If they had a farm, that's a bit of a cheating example. The Industrial Revolution didn't take place in people's homes, did it?
Yes, it did take place in people's homes. What do you think? They were looms that people were doing, and the Luddites and the people who were doing the things in the home.
Home loomery.
Yeah.
So you're anti-office. You're like an office truther, like you are with so many other issues.
You know what? I hadn't thought about it, but I'm against going to the office. I'm against people spending 2 hours of their day.
That's actually perfect, because quite a few of us are... we don't want to say it to you, Lewis, but we'd be fine if you worked from home.
Let's move on to the Times now. Lewis, what have they got on their front page?
Oh, well, this is a nightmare scenario. What do I do with a story? I don't even have the story in front of me.
Have a Times.
Have the Times. Thanks a lot. I'm actually prepared for these things.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I've got the story, but it says a blood test promises fast cancer diagnosis. Exciting UK trial identifies or rules out disease. And this is what they call in the business a press release. It's a way for this company to get people to maybe all the people in England and Britain demanding that we get this new test for cancer, because it comes up with 50 different diagnoses of cancer, and people want to be tested. And the truth is it doesn't even work. Is that they had 368 people were diagnosed with cancer, but the test detected a cancer signal in only 323 of those 368. Okay, and 244 of them were diagnosed with cancer, which means that 80 people were told that they had cancer, and they did not have cancer.
I'm impressed that Lewis has found the negative of curing cancer. I mean, that's impressive. I mean, isn't it that 75% of people testing positive in the test were found to have cancer, so it was actually incredibly accurate?
They were... because this was a group of people, they were all above like 50, 60 years old, and they're bound to have cancer because our society is completely cancer-ridden.
Isn't the point as well that this faster test means that if you test positive for it, you are sent for further tests? You're not diagnosed with cancer from this test. This test says more work's needed.
At the end of the day, this test reeks of the PSA blood test debacle. Do you remember what this was? No. It's about 20 years ago they came up with this PSA test, which tested men for prostate disease. It's a prostate-specific antigen. And it was directly related to having prostate cancer. So they said, if you've got a high number, you've got prostate cancer. Next thing you know, the death rate for people dying of prostate cancer went through the roof, because all these people who did not have prostate cancer were diagnosed with... You can check this, you can Google it. I'm not an expert on this thing.
Yeah, Google's.
Yeah, you can Google it. It's this thing, if it goes into fruition, is going to be a debacle of the highest.
We're going to get some info there. We were halfway through a story. I was waiting out for the info at the end, and it's my fault. Saturday's Sun are leading with the Phillip Schofield interview, Nick. We've not heard about him for a while.
I know, and some of our listeners have been complaining on Twitter that we talk about this too much, but we do have to do this one. It's been given to me, guys. What can I do? And it's I fear being spat on, and Schofield's afraid to leave the home, and he did do this sort of emotional interview. Some people called it manipulative. And some people are saying, I've seen people online, Darren Brown, Matthew Stadler, and other people saying that Richard Bacon saying that it's a pile-on and it's nasty. Of course, there is that element, and it is horrible. And I've been piled on Twitter, and it is very, and this is more on a national level, but it is horrible. But then again, is it warranted? I don't know enough about what he did. There may be more revelations in the future, so I'm reserving my judgment. Some people said it was homophobic. I don't believe it's homophobic, because actually, when he came out as gay, that delayed this whole thing. It delayed the whole scandal, because he did the Kevin Spacey, I choose to live as a gay man, because he'd cheated on his wife, it seems. So he said, well, I'm gay. And then then he was suddenly brave. We all say he was brave. So I deny that it's homophobia. But obviously, there's an aspect of it being a pile-on.
Would the argument that it's not homophobia probably be more if this were other genders involved, the same scandal would happen? that proves that this is not specific to a gay relationship.
It is basically, because if he was with a young woman who he met at that age and brought into his job and then had an affair with, which he admitted, it would be the same thing. I mean, I think it's bad. It's not on the level of a Ralph Harris or a Jimmy Savile. It is. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's something more there. But I think he's made two tremendous mistakes. One is he said, "I'm afraid people are going to spit on me," which basically guarantees people are going to spit on the guy. I think that was really dumb, right?
I know what you mean. It is like saying, don't throw things at a
like, don't call me...
Giving them the idea.
I went to a state school, so I'm used to it. But
don't call me piggy. That's from what book is that?
This is another digression that maybe we'll skip past. What hard-hitting story are the Daily Star leading with, Lewis?
Daily Star is leading with.
Shall I hand it to you?
You should hand it to me.
Let's have a look.
Oh my God, this is my last. This is going to be the last show that I've done.
It's perfect because you wanted to work from home.
Yeah.
But now you will. Could you start a podcast?
No, I'll be unemployed from home. Is what I'm going to be. This is. I think it's a very important story. It's a story about who are these sickos who are putting their tea or their hot coffee in their bowls of cornflakes. And I tell you something, they are sick because they're on a high-carb diet and it's super deadly.
Do we know that it's hot, the drinks that they're putting in, or is this cooled-down coffee or tea?
Well, that would be very disturbing.
Oh,
yeah.
I'd say that's...
Well, they're both disturbing, aren't they? Hot coffee or tea on cornflakes is bizarre and disturbing.
Yeah.
Cold coffee or tea is like... probably even, just as bad?
It's recycling. What else are you going to do with it? Throw it down the sink?
I find it hard to relate to this one. I don't drink tea or coffee or eat cornflakes or Jaffa cakes. So this is just nothing to me. It's a nan story, OK?
It is a nan-story.
It is a nan story.
But you know what? No, this isn't a nan story because there are people who are hearing this who are quite upset about this because it's obviously an issue. The fact is that coffee-flavored dry cereal could be an item. They have chocolate-flavored dry cereal. Yeah. So why not have coffee?
And of all the things that are tribal, Meghan, Brexit, all of these things, I can't guess what you think about coffee-flavoured cereal. All right, you've managed to find one.
Yeah.
Right, that's the front pages done. Join us after the break for Andrew Tate, offensive depictions of women and thousands of transgender people. So basically, we're looking through Lewis's phone.
Again.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle.
Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. On to Saturday's Guardian, Nick, with the government telling us who you can sleep with, insert joke, about Boris Johnson.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. This is the Home Office could forcibly separate non-cohabiting couple before their wedding. And The Guardian has managed to find a sort of really sad immigration story, because obviously we know immigration's way out of control. So they found the nicest guy, which is Yusuf Mikhail, this Egyptian man he has a degree in aeronautical engineering, so he's like a model citizen. They're both Christians. Normally, The Guardian hates Christians, but they're playing that card now because they're saying, look at this poor person. And it is sad that he has a disease as well, just to add that in as well. And he can't get treatment for it in Egypt. And they detain him. They might send him back to Egypt because they're not living together. Now, they're Christians now. So I was actually engaged to an Egyptian, so I can tell you all about it. I mean, the Coptic Christians are pretty strict, so they're not supposed to live together, and so they weren't. But then the Home Office is saying, well, therefore, you're not a proper couple. And so it's kind of a discrimination, actually, on religious grounds, you could argue. And obviously, it is very sad when you hear stories like this, because at the same time, we have a massive immigration problem. We've got all sorts of people coming in who probably wouldn't want to come in, 605,000 net. But then you hear a story like this and you say, this is actually wrong. These are the wrong people to be deporting.
It's almost like you can't have one idea of what migrants are. It's almost as if they're different types of people.
They could be, yeah.
Bizarre.
Well, the problem is we have to say no. The British people, on one hand, the British people have let in 600,000 people in the past year, I think, right? And next year they're scheduled to let in 1 million people. And eventually they've got to put their foot down on one. So they pick these people. Or they're making up for letting me into the country.
This guy should stay and you should go. Can we do that?
Yeah, you know what? If you want to fly me out, go to my Patreon account.
You have to go to Egypt. Do you know anyone there?
We built some pyramids while we were there.
How old are you? On to Saturday's Daily Mail, Lewis, and it looks like after all the advertising of a trans issue that GB News has been doing, it's starting to pay off.
Well, this was a real surprise to me that the NHS, Trans Britain, it says, according to the Daily Mail, NHS carries out one gender swap surgery. That's a sex, whatever they call it. I got to be careful because I'm not that knowledgeable on these things. I'm going to say something wrong. One gender swap surgery each day as the number of procedures being carried out doubles in a decade. So the NHS is doing the gender reassignment surgery, which is an amazingly difficult, painful, horrible surgery. It's changed my view by reading this article, because I hadn't really thought about what exactly is involved when a man who was born, I guess, whatever it is, becomes a woman. It's really brutal. And which is,
I'm sure they use anaesthetic.
They do, but it's like you got to have your urinary tract reattached, and you got to have a shape made for. It's really gruesome.
I love they keep showing.
Shall I say what the story is actually about, just for fun? So, so they're performing these surgeries nearly, one a day, as it says, and it's shocking. 97% of them are men transitioning to becoming women. So that's a very questionable stat. Now, why is that? Is it because it's some sort of fetish? Is it because they want to get into safe spaces? Who knows? I mean, is it the higher status women have in our culture?
That's quite.
I'm asking. I don't know. Why?
I want to get in a safe space. I know what I'll do. I will have bottom surgery where they have to reattach my urethral cord.
Well, yeah, if you really want to get in that space. I mean, why is it, though, Steve? It is very strange, isn't it? And only 3%.
Can I answer that question?
Answer it then, yeah.
I'll answer the question. question.
I'm amazed if you can.
Because, you answered it yourself. You made it, phrase it as a question because it sounded so nice. But the truth is, it's better to be a woman than a man. And we know that. I know Louis Schaefer's life seems amazing. Your life is amazing with your podcasts and stuff, and Steve's been on TV.
But men are hated.
But men are hated. Men are hated, and the other thing...
And I'll tell you who's not hated right now, trans people. That's the decision to move into.
I don't think trans people are hated by... I think that they're hated in certain...
any newspapers?
They're not hated. The political movement built off the back of them is what's hated.
Yes. And I think...
So it seems like you wouldn't make that decision. Like, men are getting a lot of flack. Yeah. I know what I'll do. I'll have bottom surgery with my urethral thing being removed.
But then why has the number gone up so massively? I mean, that's because it's a social trend, right? That's why it's gone up on the whole.
It hasn't gone up that massively. It's only 355, which...
It's much higher than it was.
It was, but that's only 355. That's one a day. That's not a tremendous number. But
it was 170-something a number of years ago.
Yes, OK. But it's still only 355. You're not thinking there's 10,000 a year or 20,000 a year. But at the end of the day, like we English say, is that it's better to be a man than a woman.
You mean the other way around, don't you?
It's better to be a woman than a man.
I don't think it clears it up, by the way.
It's all right.
The Metro, Nick, the BBC...
Having one of the worst shows I've ever had.
The BBC is in trouble for the comments of a man who used to do competitive sport. Surely that's what they have Gary Lineker for.
Yeah, this is Andrew Tate, the top G. So BBC faces backlash for controversial interview with Andrew Tate, and they have a quote from Charlotte Proudman, who's a sort of ridiculous Twitter person, saying, "I can't imagine how survivors feel." So if you saw the interview, I watched the whole thing for research, of course. It was on Rumble, and it's another embarrassing interview from the BBC. It's very much in the Cathy Newman mould. I know that was Channel 4. It's very much in the Clayton Musk mould. It's a hit piece interview. They approach it from the start with a hostile attitude, and it's quite silly. It's perfectly possible to do a good faith, well-researched interview of Andrew Tate and still be challenging. There's lots of things you can question him on. But you go into it openly, you say, OK, this is the good you've done, this is the bad, and so on. Or is this true? They had details about the case wrong. They were taking quotes from podcasts out of context and just sounding ridiculous. And the problem is, for them, that you can share the interview now, you can watch the whole interview for yourself, and you can judge, and you can go, well, they just come across silly. I mean, the interviewer wouldn't shake his hand after him. It's just basic lack of professionalism, and he handled himself much better. And that's bad for people that hate Tate, because he basically did win this, if it can be won. And, I'm not saying Tate's perfect. I'm just saying it's another lame hit piece from the BBC.
Lewis, you a big fan? Subscriber?
I am not a big fan. But I don't like hit pieces. I'm with you, Nick. I think your assessment there is totally 100% on the mark. And I think she went in there with an attitude. And what struck me the most was, and I really felt for this poor woman, her level of incompetence, her unpreparedness was Schaefferian in scope.
I can really relate.
I can't relate, because you see someone like that who works for the BBC, and I think to myself, she should know better. I understand myself why I'm not prepared. But when you see that woman, you think, I thought this woman's incompetent. Sorry.
Yeah. And they also lied. They sent them a list of questions they were going to ask. They asked different questions. It was pointless. Right. And also, they know they're going to get clicks, so they do this. But they're sort of debasing themselves and debasing their brand for clicks, because it seems to work. The Cathy Newman interview, for example, had with Jordan Peterson, huge amount of views. So it does work in a sense, but it doesn't make the BBC look good.
No, and let's just say this. It needs to be said. I mean, I know a lot of people like the BBC, but they're not journalists. It's the state propaganda service. No, they're not journalists. It's the state propaganda service.
Some of them are definitely journalists.
No, they are. Once you've been hired by the state, you're employees of the state. You're a clerk. You're not a journalist anymore. Sorry.
How many BBC journalists have you worked with?
I've met many journalists, and some of them do good work, but they're still state employees, and they're still under the thumb, like this woman was. And maybe I'm wrong, and I apologise if I'm wrong.
They'll be Googling you right now. The Telegraph now, Lewis, and a mural has caused offence. Is Corbyn going to go and visit?
Yeah, well, you know what's fascinating about this? Council orders removal of a hook-nosed witch mural for historical inaccuracies. Maybe there's some kind of weird anti-Semitism in it for the hook nose, whatever. But this is very interesting, because this takes place in believe it or not, I was married to a Scottish woman, lovely, and I have family who are Scottish, and they grew up right there in Fife.
Where the witches are from.
Where the witches, well,
Don't finish that sentence. Go on.
My kids could watch this. Anyway, there was this town where in the 1700s they tortured 26 people and killed 18 women, which is a horrible thing. So I'm not sure it needs to be made fun of. But somebody did a mural on the side of this beautiful town, and the council said, no, you can't have it on.
Nick, is this unfair to witches?
A little bit, because it's just a standard caricature of a witch in a way that we all understand. And this Liberal Democrat has said it inaccurately depicts women. It's like, never go full Lib Dem. I mean, of course it does. It's a caricature of a witch. The one thing I have sympathy with is that planners are saying it would have a significant detrimental impact on the character and appearance and conservation of the area. And that is true. It is sort of gaudy and a bit tasteless. But it's just what they wanted. The guy who did it said, well, that's what they asked for. But it is just also just a standard cartoonist witch picture. So they may be getting a bit worked
But
up.
it is reality-based, because number one is that people on a high-carbohydrate diet and have boils on their...
Coming up, we will have the birth of an AI uprising, middle-class shoplifters, because oat milk is expensive, and Amazon shrinkage. The forest, Bezos is doing just fine, don't worry. We'll see you in 2.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
Is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's go to The Guardian now, Nick. And people are worried that AI could kill us, so they're seeing what happens if we give AI weapons. Sense?
Yes, pretty much. So the US Air Force denies running simulation in which AI drone killed operator, inverted commas, because it didn't literally kill him, but it did in the test. So I was following this story earlier on Twitter, and they've now denied it. So Colonel Tucker Cinco Hamilton described a simulated test in which basically they gave a drone points for taking out certain targets. Then they said, well, we don't want you to take out those targets anymore. And the drone was like, but I want the points. So it then attacked their communication tower and just killed them instead because they were denying it its precious points. So this is incredibly disturbing. I mean, it's as chilling as it could possibly be. And what's classic is that they've come out and denied it in a very sort of military way, so the department, so Anne Stefanik has come out and denied it and said the Department of the Air Force has not conducted any such AI drone simulations and remains committed to ethical and responsible use of AI technology. It appears the Colonel's comments were taken out of context and were meant to be anecdotal. Basically, you can't handle the truth. You know, nothing to see here. Routine tests. You know what I mean? Obviously it's dangerous, and they've had to just wheel it, dial it back.
Every single one of these stories, you think you want to scream at them. Have you never seen any films?
Yeah.
This is always what happens, and they're making it happen. Oh, we're in charge of AI. Let's see what happens if we give them some guns. No. Because it's AI. Always keep the plug in your hand.
The only possible positive, Steve, is if we had a war against the AI, we might stop talking about gender for a few weeks. What do you think, Lewis?
This is a non-story.
This is a massive story.
No, it is. It's a total non-story because they know that. I remember when I was a kid and we learned basic. Probably you're a nerd and you learned the basic programming.
I'm an alpha.
I don't think anyone said programming a spectrum is going to kill you.
Yeah, but what it is if line 1 says do this, line 2 says do that, line 3 this happens.
Everyone does. And 10, print your name. 20, go to 10,
yeah,
run. Boom.
Run, exactly. And that is unstoppable because it's written in the program. But the point is, this is just panic building. It's just trying to whip people into a frenzy.
Well, no, they're trying to do the opposite. They're trying to deny it. The original story was scary. Now they're trying to deny it to not whip people into a frenzy.
No, by denying it, it whips people into a frenzy. They could have just as easily said, you know what, every computer program has these run, print things, and we're going to factor everything into it.
Well, no, because that's the whole thing about AI is that you don't write a line of code. If this happens, do this. It teaches itself. Machine learning means it has a goal. It aims to get points, but you don't know how it will achieve that. And the genius of it is it works out the best way to achieve it until it works out.
Are you saying I'm wrong?
I love you say the genius, Steve. You're one of these people that would admire the AI as it kills you. You know what I mean? Yeah, clever girl.
This is almost linked, actually, to the Daily Mail, Lewis. There's a 50-50 chance that AI will kill us. Glass half full. It's a 50-50 chance that we'll survive it.
I don't believe it, and I might be wrong. You made a very convincing argument in the last section for why AI is dangerous, but I don't believe it. I just think because this is a story. It says experts say there's a 50-50 chance AI will wipe out humanity, and this guy Max Tegmark, who's a physicist and an AI expert at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. His mother's Jewish and his father's Swedish, and he's basically saying that stuff is going to be bad for us. But I think this is an example of what H.L. Mencken said. He said, to paraphrase, the whole aim of politics is to keep the population alarmed with an endless series of imaginary hobgoblins.
I love that you think this isn't dangerous, but you think bread is dangerous. You know what I mean? Foods that aren't raw meat can kill us, but not deadly AI.
Yes, it is, and it's true. Carbohydrates are killing.
Oh no! Why did I do that? Sorry, Steve. I walked into that one. Can we get an AI that stops Lewis talking about food?
But Nick, so the thing is, it seems to be all of the people saying this is really scary. The people making it, stop doing it yourself then.
Turn it off. That's the first thing. Turn this off. My theory on that is this. Actually, this guy's got a patent on it, and he's saying, you guys all stop making it. I've actually heard this. People who keep saying, let's worry about the threat of AI, are secretly building their own AIs. Because this is why we're going to destroy ourselves, because we can't stop. Because of money, if you had the best AI or the first brilliant AI or whatever, you're going to get so rich, we can't stop, even if it kills us all, which there's a coin toss chance it will, Steve. 50-50. Terrifying.
Or you are right. The guy is saying, let's tell people how deadly AI is to make other companies buy it and go to him.
That's what I'm hoping. Right. I'm actually hoping for corruption because it's better than apocalypse.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be on the side of corruption.
I don't know. By the end of some of these shows, 50-50 mutual death. It's not bad, is it? The Daily Mail, Nick, and there's a question over the manliness of vegan men, but in some ways they have more nuts than most.
Nice. Yeah, vegan men perceived as less suitable for masculine jobs, study finds. And of course it comes from Poland, absolute legends, where they don't trust the vegans, they don't even trust the vegetarians, they don't trust anything that isn't meat and right-wing politics. So Polish experts found men who listed their dietary preferences as vegan in their job application were perceived to be less competent, and this is by potential employers, and especially Polish employers, because 1% of Poles identify as vegans. I mean, they'd get beaten up. You couldn't do it in that culture. And this was interesting. However, whether or not women consume meat did not influence their job prospects, because you just expect it of them, right? They're going to be eating vegetables all day, talking about shoes. That's what, as far as I can tell, that's what they're saying. And yeah, pretty much. So that's what you'd expect, isn't it? I mean, the problem is with vegans.
Is the story not about a little bit of bias against vegans?
It is, but if you hire vegans, Steve, they are more likely to complain to HR about loads of stuff.
Yeah, and they are, and they do have a lower intelligence level. It's been proven that.
Thank you.
We're willing to like that, doesn't it?
We're looking for the balance here, and he just makes it so much worse.
Well, you're going to have to challenge this, but it's true. Is that they have lower B12, which is related to lower intelligence. They found out that children who are fed a vegan diet, and you're going to get letters, and I apologize for this, but.
On recycled paper.
Is that if you feed your children a vegan diet, it's been shown through many studies that their intelligence levels go down. So they do make bad employees. And yes, it's from Poland. And they actually, I've heard that Polish people consider chicken a vegetable.
True.
Now, a related story, I can't even believe we're going to do this. The Guardian now, Lewis, and apparently eating beef is bad. Nick, we might as well just leave for 5 minutes.
Yeah, you might as well leave because that's the Guardian. They are against cutting down trees, which totally I am. I'm Mr. Tree Lover. I fought for years and years against Southwark Council cutting down trees in, that's right, get the thing, is that years and years. So I am against cutting down trees. But what they're trying to say that the more than 800 million Amazon trees felled in 6 years to meet beef demand. The truth is that the beef demand in America and in Britain is going down, okay? And the other thing is that there would have been another reason for them to deforest the Amazon. That's just the way the world is. The world's
saying it's not. Oh, it was going to be deforested anyway. You might as well put some beef on it.
Well, something good could come of it.
So it's more than 800 million Amazon trees have been felled to meet the beef demand, all right? And 700 million of them are for Lewis's breakfast, all right? And then the remaining 100 million are other people. But this is a Guardian anti-beef beef. They have a beef against beef. It's the Guardian.
Yeah.
I read the headline first and then went, this is the Guardian. And of course it was. And so I always question those stories. And I'm pro-beef. I want to come out on the pro-beef side. Not quite as pro-beef as Lewis. I don't eat it like 5 times a day, and I sometimes cook it. But pro-beef. And the last thing I have to say is, Lewis, have you paid the director to repeatedly cut to your Twitter handle? It's getting ridiculous.
I haven't.
There it is again.
If you've got any complaints about anything he says, that's normally when the camera cuts to it. Like, don't send us the complaint. Just tweet him directly.
Yeah. We should talk about deforestation. The number one place for deforestation historically is Scotland.
Forests.
Oh. And England too. We're totally deforested.
On to the Telegraph now, and news of middle-class shoplifting as a working-class northerner, Nick. Is this cultural appropriation?
Well, I like to think I scrape into the lower middle class these days, Steve. But yes, I'm a middle-class shoplifter, and I blame today's infuriating supermarkets. So it's a think piece about stealing. It's a think piece about stealing because they're basically saying, look, you can steal now, and that's sort of fair enough. It's a quid pro quo for price hikes, useless technology, and the endless draining away of anything resembling service. And I kind of agree with that. When they took out the real people, they basically said, we're going to save money on staff, but we're going to lose some money due to stealing. And that's the bargain they made when they introduced self-service. Now, I don't do it anymore because it's against the 10 Commandments. It goes against the 8th Commandment, so I don't steal because God's watching, basically. With the one exception, if I've got some hot food right from the counter and it's rapidly getting cold because the packaging isn't adequate, and then the barcode's really thin and worn off, and you can't scan it, I'm not going to ask someone to take ages to come over and do it.
Type in the number.
You can type in a number, but that takes a long time as well, and I'm not a robot like you, Steve. But basically, God will allow that, I believe, even within the 10 Commandments. He'll be like, well, that was hot chicken.
It was in the 10 Commandments, wasn't it? Well, hot food, where you can't see the barcode.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't think so. I think so. What this guy is saying, he's basically saying
woman.
Is it a woman?
Oh no, it's anonymous actually. Oh no, it says somewhere in the thing. I think it sounds like it's a woman. But anyway, carry on.
Okay.
The picture was.
It's basically in the Telegraph, which is supposedly a telegraph stands for big business and for business. And it's basically a how-to steal from supermarkets. If you want to learn how to steal, scan one box and put 5 in the bag. It tells you how to steal.
If you couldn't work that out on your own, you don't deserve to steal, and you shouldn't steal.
Yeah.
That's this section done. Coming up, we'll have big butts, and I cannot lie. Awkward questions that you should ask teenagers. Can I have your number is not one of them, Lewis. And a man so deep underwater, he's lower than Nick's standards. That's
how dare you.
Stay tuned.
Did you just...
Hello.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News. The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get back into The Guardian, Lewis, with a story about the butt lift industry, but apparently the cracks are starting to show.
Thank you, Steve. All right, very funny. Is the complaints about this is in The Guardian, complaints about non-surgical butt lifts rising at an alarming rate in the UK. I never even heard about it. It's called Brazilian butt lifts. And you can go to any old shop in the corner and get injected in your butt without any kind of licensing that's going on. And so these complaints have risen from 5 to 50 a year. So there are only 50 complaints. It's not really that many complaints, but it's still 50 complaints. So what this is Ashton Collins, who's the director of Safe Faces organization, she is saying, we have to do something about this. And what their suggestion is to make it only done by doctors, basically.
Yeah, no more backstreet butt lifts, basically. I mean, the thing is, complaints about non-surgical butt lifts are rising at an alarming rate, but are non-surgical butt lifts also rising at an alarming rate? And that's why there's so many complaints. I mean, yes seems to be the answer. Yeah. And what is a non-surgical butt lift? Do you just kick someone really hard over the bum? How does it work?
It swells up. It's I think it's injection. So you're injecting something, this thing, which is called a hyaluronic acid. And
you get that in face creams, hyaluronic acid. I mean, I'm not saying inject face creams into your bottom.
Yeah.
It's expensive. But, yeah.
And at the end of the day, something horrible is going to happen to these people because they're fighting with the way God meant them to look.
Do you know what it is, Lewis? Do you know what it is, Lewis? It's the death of love. It's the death of love.
I don't know. Have you seen some of the pictures?
Well, it could be considered the death of love because they want to make this thing less available to the people, which means...
No, it's because people are going on Instagram. Sorry to interrupt you after I just use your catchphrase. They're going on Instagram. They want to look a certain way, and it's the death of love, and it's this sort of elevation of looks above all and shortcuts to looking better. And
Right, and they want to be more attractive for other people who they're obviously not their husbands.
Yeah. Imagine someone who goes on social media talking about how attractive they are. Could you imagine such a... I mean, maybe it's not all butt lifts. Maybe it's talking about meat diets and saying they've lost loads of weight and they're really attractive. Imagine that kind of person, Lewis.
But happens... Nick, I don't want to agree with Nick too much in this show, but he happens to be right because the women who spend their time looking beautiful for other men create marital discord and the breakdown of the family, and that's the death of love.
And this is a little bit gross, but the fact that Lewis lost actually goes into the butt lifts is what you don't realise. That's why it's less so cheap.
That's why you can hear some of them complaining about stuff as they walk past. The Telegraph Nick is telling us to talk to teenagers about porn, and I've been told legally I'm now not allowed to do my joke about this morning.
Fair enough. Yeah, so it's do you watch porn, Steve? And 6 other awkward questions you should be asking your teenager. It's a quite cringe article from The Telegraph about asking... I mean, they talk about, oh, my teenager had a party when everyone was away. Well, that's normal, you know. And this is a mother who used to work for the Erotic Review, which is a bit cringe on its own. Imagine if your parents had done that. But it's just a series of invasive questions that you ask your kid, like, are you doing drugs? Have you vaped? And they're suggesting you sort of lightly interrogate your children about a number of things. But none of this happened in the North in the 90s. None of these... You didn't tell your parents anything. They didn't ask you anything. You just developed sort of deep wells of rage. And you went to a school where you were beaten up. It was a state school. You were beaten up. You were spat on. And you just went, no, you didn't mention it. And then you turn out fine.
Did they have porn in the North?
No.
Did they have magazines?
No, we didn't even have women. It's very bleak.
This is a tragic story because it's in the Telegraph. And it's like, this is the kind of story that would be maybe in The Guardian, who's totally amoral. But at the end of the day, you should never ask your kids any of these questions. When they're 15 and 16 years old, it's a bit too late to ask them, are you taking drugs? Do you know anybody who takes drugs? They're not going to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you ask too early, you just give them the idea. No, I've not Googled for that yet. What is it?
And they actually recommend that if they reply to you and sort of challenge you back, if you say, have you vaped? Well, have you ever smoked? Then you're supposed to say to them, yeah, do I look like Doris Day? A reference every teenager will get.
Let's move on to The Guardian now, Lewis, and there's a new self-defence technique that maybe you shouldn't try.
Well, this is The Guardian. There's a snowfly, it's called a snowfly, in the US and Canada that can detach its legs to survive, research shows. And it's a kind of a fly that's very similar to a daddy long legs. And it has 6 legs. And when it gets cold or being attacked, it can basically shed a leg. It can cut off its own legs deliberately, not even just lose a leg. It can just say, hey, I don't need that leg. And this is it's in The Guardian, but I don't think anybody's going to complain that they basically took these poor flies, put them on a cold plate, like a hot plate, but gets cold, freeze them to death. Freeze them to death
till the legs drop off.
Until they've lost all of their legs and decide to die.
Yeah, there's a guy here saying it's gruesome, but they're like putting them through tests. Well, it does happen in nature as well. Yeah, basically the legs drop off. It's like Lewis if he eats a cake. The legs just come off. I'm so sorry. The legs just come off, and they'll lose as many as 5 legs just to survive. Yeah. They're kind of like the Monty Python sketch. Is that all you've got? You know, they'll keep going.
Let's move on to The Guardian now, Nick, and there's a mystery in our galaxy. Is this aliens going to kill us before AI? Woo.
Yeah, they give me a space story here because they know I hate them. I'm just not interested in space, even if I should be. So this is scientists discover mysterious cosmic threads in Milky Way. So horizontal structures, Steve, up to 10 light years in length. Sounds like an amount of time, but it's a length. Appear to point in direction of galaxies' black holes. So there's always light rays or something. I don't understand this at all. And they're pointing. This is like, I feel like Lewis on any story when it comes to space stories. So they seem to be. I don't know what's happening. Can you explain it? Steve?
No, let's turn to our science advisor, Lewis Schaefer.
Yes.
About these space things.
Well, this is. You're right about this story. It's a complete non-story because the undercurrents of everything that this story is involved with is wrong. There's no such thing as a black hole. There's no deep anything like that.
Do you believe in anything?
No, I don't believe.
Blood pressure's fake. Bread is fake.
I don't believe anything to do with science.
Offices.
This is what I'm going to tell you. What story this is, Steve? This goes into the category of insecure minds trying to seem smart. So you got this physicist.
No, I think you got that the other way.
Yeah, no.
That's the name of your autobiography.
No, mine is secure mind trying to seem dumb.
Should be secure mind.
I should be. I'm secure.
So Professor Stephen Hawking thought there were black holes. You think they're not?
I think they're not. First of all, that is a fallacious argument. Just Stephen Hawking thought there was black
appeal to authority. You're absolutely right.
Really
You've got him. You got him.
I got him.
And can I just say quickly though, that Lewis, this is the man who thinks water dehydrates you. Let's just the viewer should remember that, just for compliance.
I've reconsidered that. But
I've reconsidered it in my later work.
Is that this new information came in?
Well, we've got to fit the last story in, and this is water related.
Can I just mention one word?
Why not?
Velikovsky. For the people out there listening, you Google Velikovsky, Velikosky.
Great composer.
Enjoy your rabbit hole. The Mirror, Lewis, and this is the same thing happened when my goldfish died, and my parents pulled a scam in this story.
Oh my God! Well, this is man spends 93 days at the bottom of the Atlantic. Now he's 10 years younger.
Yeah, it's a different bloke.
Yeah, and this is complete bull, because his telomeres grew, right, which is somehow related to the chromosomes and stuff like that.
Stops you getting cancer. Yeah.
And his cholesterol went down and whatever. But the truth is, what did he do down there? Was it the pressure, or was it the fact that he was spent 93 days away from his nagging wife?
Whoa, there it is. So, I wondering how it'd work in misogyny, but it got there. Basically, the key to anti-aging is drowning. I mean, that's the thing. It's very risky, isn't it? You're down there in the water thinking, I'll either become much younger or die instantly. It's not ideal.
Yeah, and how often would you have to keep redoing this to keep these telomeres good?
Yeah, exactly.
But I do believe it's real. I mean, he did do it, and he did de-age.
But he did not de-age.
He did.
Certain markers.
He's much younger now.
You know what? I'm much younger being with you. This thing has taken off 10 years of my life. How do you know? We don't know. What, is the guy going to live 10 years longer? He's going to die at 103 rather than 93? We don't know.
No, but it's healthier. Would you agree on? Of course, you wouldn't agree on that.
No,
you don't think black
we
holes
don't know.
exist.
Being in a bariatric.
On that beautiful note, the show is nearly over. We've all learned a lot today, I think. So let's take another look at our front pages for Saturday. The Telegraph: ministers had secret unit to curb critics of lockdown. The Times: blood test promise fast cancer diagnosis. The Guardian goes with game-changing drug could boost breast cancer survival rate. The Daily Mail: unions line up another year of rail strike mayhem. The Sun says that Phillip Schofield fears being spat on. And the Daily Star: who the hell are these sickos? Those were your front pages. That's it for tonight. Thank you to my wonderful guests, Lewis and Nick. Nick will be hosting Headliners tomorrow, so it'll be all right on the night. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, make sure that you stay tuned.
What do you say that about Nick?
Coming on next.
What do you say about Nick?
Steve.
He's got.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice.